So those are our aerial shots from our drones live in Pretoria. Dumalang, Sambanani, a bit of a shaky start there. Yep. A very warm welcome to Expressions. This is a very special episode where we are going to be tackling the burning issue of gender-based violence head on. Now, more than anything else, we are going to be giving you an exclusive where you get to engage with the Deputy Minister of Police, Kasil Matale, as well as his General, Kehla Sithole, and we're going to find out what are they doing to ensure that they tackle and curb this issue of gender-based violence. I am Jacqueline Mapala, your host.
And I'm your host, coming to you live from the Police Academy in Pretoria. Mtswane is what I'm talking about today as we tackle this very burning topic with Jackie. As we ask the big question today, is government failing to tackle the issue of gender-based violence in the country? Now, we live on SABC 1 as well as the SABC News channel, DSTV channel 404. Do interact with us on our social media platforms as well as call us on 078-799-4480. Let's have this frank conversation, Jack.
Yes, indeed. We definitely have to have this very frank conversation because we know that this issue, the scourge of gender-based violence, is not only a serious problem in our community, but most importantly, it is really affecting a lot of young people. I mean, we've heard as well in the news headlines, we've heard of Pule, and just now recently we've also heard of Asitandile Zozo, who is a Wit student who unfortunately was murdered in the Eastern Cape. Now, there's so many cases like this in Polisi, and I think what is very important for us as young people is to remember that our voices count, and as young people we need to rise up, and as young people we're also saying, enough is enough. But before we get into this very important conversation that we're having today, we are going to show you a very important insert that was prepared by our producer, Mbenda. Take a look at this.
Expressions caught up with Usi Sponso, where she told us of her story of how she suffered abuse of her then lover that left her with third-degree burns. Fast forward to 2020, her perpetrator is yet to get his day in court. Let's go and meet her. What has changed or what has remained the same since we last spoke to you?
Since the last we have spoken, the case is now in court and it's on trial. But it's been postponed. It's almost 2 to 3 years now. We are receiving different postponements. And now even the COVID now has put more impact on it.
What feedback are you getting?
Right now, it's a dead still. There is no feedback unless if I go and find out about it. I even went and opened a second statement of intimidation, harassment, and threats. But today there's still no arrest on the second one or the revoke of the bail or warning conditions. The guy is still out there, so that tells me that the problem is the system.
Tell us what actually happened.
In 2014, it was on Monday. I was preparing for work. Then there came my husband, and all of a sudden just took a bottle, poured an acid on me. I went to the hospital. Later on in May, I opened a case, and since then the case has been closed, opened, reopened.
Why was the case closed in the first place?
I was told that I'm the one who went and closed the case.
Did you?
On my request of the statement of withdrawing the case, that's when it was reopened without even consultation to why now.
You didn't go and close the case?
I didn't, because I was hospitalized for almost a year. So how can I have done that?
Do you feel like the justice system has let you down?
Big time. One thing that I can tell you, this pandemic has shown me how affected I really am. Firstly, I can't wear a mask properly. I have to wear a specially made, the one that I cannot even afford. So I have to use the one that I can afford and adjust it so that I can even put it because of my right ear. So it shows me that our justice system is very, very, very vague. Our laws are very intact, but those who should be doing the implementation are the ones that are failing us.
An extremely powerful insert that was prepared by our producer, Mbenda, obviously showing a really a hero and a victim and somebody who's survived gender-based violence as a young person. But I think for us to be able to unpack this issue a little bit more, let me introduce officially my guests. A very warm welcome to Expressions, Deputy Minister Kasel Matale, as well as our General Uketla Sithole. Welcome to Expressions. And of course, now we have to obviously acknowledge our studio audience. Mkolisi, can you say hello to our makeshift audience for today?
Well, thank you very much for that, Jackie. Thank you so much for joining us, audience, for this evening. We're hoping that we're going to have a very constructive conversation around gender-based violence. Welcome to the show. Once again, please give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you. Right, Jackie?
Absolutely.
We're good to get this conversation started.
Let's get this conversation started. I think, Deputy Minister, I think let's get straight into it. How do we restore trust? I mean, we are seeing the stories where young women, young men in this country are affected by gender-based violence. We want to find out from you, as the Department of Police, what are you doing to restore trust within your department?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers. The department has done quite extensively in terms of the fight against the scourge of gender-based violence. And in our response to that, we have put mechanism through the unit we call FCS, which is Family and Children Protection Services Against Violence. And this unit has done quite a lot in terms of apprehending perpetrators of gender-based violence. And I think that they are one of the most successful units that we have within the South African police that is doing extremely well. But the success in our fight against gender-based violence is not a success that is going to be determined by the role that the South African police is playing. It's a societal responsibility. As a country, we need to come together to respond to this scourge. South Africa is regarded as the fourth in the world highest violent society. And this is not surprising, given the history of this country, that over the past 300 years, you have had a conflict which was resolved with the negotiations of 1994, when we ushered in a democratic dispensation. So what you see today is a product of who we are as a country and the violent nature that produce the society that you see, which we need to engage in a program to re-educate our people, to educate the boy child to understand that there is no difference between him and the girl child, because our socialization, we are socialized in such a manner that boys see themselves different from women, including the tasks that they perform at home. There are things that are generally put aside to be domain for women, and those that can be done by boys. And this shape our outlook going forward. So we need a lot of education amongst our communities to deal with this.
So education definitely is the key, and of course I'm going to be bringing into this conversation our National Commissioner, General Sithole, as well, just to really find out specifically what the practicalities that are being implemented by the Department of Police to make sure that they curb the issue of gender-based violence. You are watching Expressions. We'll be back right after this.
Ake siphinde sinibingelela sinamukele. You still with Spinder Sinbingela Snamgele, you still with the Expressions, and this is your #1 youth current affairs show. Still on the big pressing question, we are asking, is government failing to tackle the issue of gender-based violence? You welcome to interact with us in Kudlenzethu. We are also taking your calls namhlanje on 078 799 4480. Now this is Expressions. So as your #1 youth current affairs show, we also took to the streets to find out, what do young people have to say generally about the level of crime as well as gender-based violence in the country. Have a look at this insert.
Minister, benginombuzo for wena ukuthi sina njengama-sex worker sibone ngathi asithathelwa engqondweni ngoba siyareyishwa siyangenelwa ezindlini sivula amacala khona aphelele obala.
Minister, we have so many cases of gender-based violence, and what is common about those cases, #1, why the investigating officers do not communicate with families of the victims?
Minister, ke na le bothata, ke rapilwe, ka kidnapiwa, and then ebe ke bethiwa ke ex-boyfriend. So ebe ke mo tshwarisa a tswa ka bail, and then after ho kry-a bail ebe a nthreathena mo strateng ka sethunya. So and ke ngwana sekolo ke batla itse hore hona byanong e tshwantse ke phile byang.
And secondly, the issue of protection order. Why the perpetrators are not arrested when they violate the protection order?
What is it that the minister has actually put in place to bring transparency to all these cases that of which us as citizens do not know about, but ensuring that this cases actually reach the justice system?
Are there any measures that the government has put in place to ensure that not only some, but all men who do these gruesome acts are convicted? And if they are, what are those? I think it's about time that justice is served for Tsogofatso Pule, Kwasa Lukala, Uinene Mokgweetjana, and all the women who have died in the hands of men.
Well, great insights there coming from the people. Of course, these are all our viewers who have tough questions. We perhaps will be going back to Jackie and the panelists just to digest these questions a bit. But before we go there, let's just quickly get some insight from the audience as well with Jackie. Sisponso, I think I need to bring you into this conversation. Now, we saw your, hard rendering insert just a few minutes when we went on air. Siswami, we know what happened to you. We understand and we sympathize with you right now. What's happened with your case thus far till where we are now?
Good evening, everybody. In short, I was banned by my husband in 2014 in April, and the case is still on trial to date. The case has been closed, and then after the intervention of the March of 2018, from the total shutdown, it was reopened without reasons. I still don't know why it was closed down even before. Fast forward to date, the case has always been on postponement. There is still no progress on the case. My worry on that, I even went and opened another case on top of the case, because now the perpetrator is still victimizing me, harassing me. And I was told that there would be a revoke of a warning that he was granted. But to date, from April to now, I think it's about 3 to 4 months, he's still out. So I'm very much worried about our justice system and the way police are handling our cases. From where you start to go and report the case up until it ends up in court. One of the questions that I would like the minister to clarify for me.
Commissioner, perhaps?
Yes. On an issue of a Schedule 5 case, an attempted murder case, do the police have the jurisdiction to give a bail or a warning to a perpetrator before even he could appear in court? Do they have those powers? And what grants the police, the investigating officer, to send the forensics at the crime scene in order to gather all the evidence, even if you request? But I can say even today, that hasn't happened, and the very same evidence is no longer there. What grants the forensics to be sent to a crime scene in order to get if that didn't happen, what is the minister going to do about that in case of accountability? Because I feel that my case is being handled vaguely so. There are lots of holes that I need answers on. But right now I cannot go in details because the matter is still on trial, especially in live TV. So there are a whole lot of questions that I would like to ask the minister or whoever who can be able to give me answers as to what needs to be done on my case. Is the case of a survivor not as much important as somebody who has died? Maybe my case was going to be handled better if I have died in that incident. But now because I have survived, then it's not that matter of importance or agency. That's what I would like to know. They're going to wait for me, for the victim, to be murdered again, because that harassment, it will lead there. I scare for my kids especially.
Okay.
Right now the schools are open.
Yes.
I don't know if my child is back at home.
All right, Siswam. Let's just quickly take this too. But first, before we go to the commissioner, are you okay emotionally?
Right now, I feel that I don't have time to mourn myself because I have to get justice. There will be time where I have to break down. Right now, I cannot afford to break down because me breaking down, that will mean that I failed myself. I need to protect myself and be strong. But what I can tell you is that I'm not really, because I always think, especially for my kids, because I see what's happening outside with kids in cases like this.
Okay. It's a sponsor there, of course. Perhaps we can take this to our National Police Commissioner, Baba Uketla Stole. Perhaps you can take that, Baba. We've heard about accountability as well. Please, sir, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. And let me acknowledge, firstly, and also appreciate my sister for coming forward, and also for your bravery. I think you are my hero. On the first question, there are circumstances only under which police can grant bail, and is clearly outlined in the law, but there are circumstances which they can't, and that can only be granted by court. If that has happened, then it means it's a violation of the law by the police. And once it has so happened, they are not an exception, then it means they will need to also account, which can include them being charged. And as you have explained the matter, in actual fact, before you came here, I have instructed that your case be elevated to the highest authority for monitoring. And that is also going to include the second case that you have related on. Your case shall be monitored at the level of the Deputy National Commissioner and as well as the Divisional Commissioner. And the Divisional Commissioner is here, is Lieutenant General Musikidi. And there will be an internal investigation in terms of the allegations that you have made. And there will be a report that will be submitted to me. And where things did not or were not done correctly, action would be taken. But the report that I have now and the latest instruction that I have given, I said, let's work together with NPA, let's work together with yourself, and let's work together with justice. I have confirmation now that your case is in motion, and I'm going to be monitoring it constantly so that I get progress report. I am just asking you to continue, persevere, and work together with us. And we're going to give you the highest priority and the highest level of respect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Police Commissioner. And Sisponso's expressions will be taking a very keen eye in your case as well. If you're in a position like Sisponso, remember the South African Police Service also have their complaints line. Maunabe une complain with regards to the way your case has been handled, or any complaints or suggestions you should have for the South African Police Services. We'll be publishing the numbers on the screen shortly. This is your #1 youth current affairs show, Expressions. We back after this.